All right, we are live and ready to go. It's been a while since I've done one of these on Saturday, so I'm going to try some rapid and some slow games. Well, here's a 30-30 against somebody who's rated 2200. Let's see how this one goes. Got a French defense. Well, maybe they're thinking of something a little more offbeat. Oh, d5 it is. I like playing the advanced. Been pretty committed to it over the years. Okay, A6 is not a move that I see a lot. That's a new one for me. A6. Well, does that allow us the ability to play F4? Because normally you don't get a chance to play F4 because black puts pressure on the D4 pawn. So normally you have to play knight F3 in order to hold on to the D pawn. Therefore you can't move your F pawn. But it might make sense to play F4 here. Yeah, I'm not so sure. I never know about those positions. I mean, one of the downsides with F4 is it blocks your bishop. So your bishop doesn't have access to those two squares. Well, one of the things that F4 does do is that you could be ready for a kingside pawn storm with F5. Okay, well, I'm not obligated to play F4. It's not like I can't get it in later. So I'm just going to go with knight F3. Okay, so that must be the idea, that bishop to d7 with the idea of trading off the bad bishop. So the bishop is bad because he's blocked in by his own pawns. So a4 seems to make sense here, just to take away that square. c4 is a possibility as well. But then I do have to be cognizant of that idea. Yeah, I generally don't like allowing black to easily trade off that bishop, especially for our good bishop. So I'm going to go with a4. We might be getting into familiar waters here, except that a6 and a4 have been thrown in. Like if he plays knight c6, then that's normal, except these two moves have been tossed in. So the bishop is on a nice diagonal, light square diagonal. Okay, so black is allowing me to take on c5. Does develop their bishop, but then I can castle, and I've got f2 protected by my rook. That's why a lot of the times black will first take on d4, pardon me, and only then play queen here, because then white no longer has that. I could also play in Gambit fashion, which is what I normally do in this line. After castles takes, I could play knight to d2. The idea that we want them to take on c3, and then we'd have the open b file as compensation. So I just got to think, which one am I wanting to play? I think both of them are acceptable. Well, let's go for this one. Let's give this one a try. So it's true that, let me increase my microphone here. Make sure you guys are hearing it enough. Seems to be okay. Here we go. Perfect. Is that better? Looks a little better. Okay. Yeah, so it's true that we've developed their bishop for them with tempo, but I did have b4 as a threat. So we would regain that tempo with b4. So therefore, black plays a5, but we've gained something. We've gained now the b5 square for our pieces. So now it's just a matter, do I want to play knight a3 with the idea to hop in here? Do I want to go knight d2, knight b3 perhaps? I can even delay the decision. And queen e2 is a useful move. Supports the e5 pawn, also reinforces the f pawn, and gets our queen off of the home square. Let's go for that one. Queen e2 is also useful in that it protects b2. So if we want to develop our bishop, say bishop f4, we don't have to worry about the b2 being taken by the black queen. Okay. Knight to e7. Hello, Tauntaun. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to our stream. Okay, so I like to play h4 in reply to knight e7. It discourages the knight from going there, because then we'd kick it with h5. But of course, we're not discouraging the knight from going to f5. So I gotta be careful. If the knight goes on f5, then there's an immediate threat of knight g3, which would fork queen and rook. Now you might think, hey, if the knight goes here, why can't we just take it? Well, we've got a pin. We cannot move that pawn because it would be check. So after knight here, we could consider taking the knight off the board, or we could simply move our king out of this line of fire. Something tells me king h1 would make sense there, because then we could consider g4 kicking the knight, perhaps. I've got an even better move, I think. So this might be a better idea. Knight f5, we go bishop f4, because now the bishop is guarding that square. So that to me would be more useful because we're developing a piece, whereas moving the king is not really developing one of our pieces on the queen side. Okay, so d4. Don't think we have to worry about that so much. It does give them access to the d5 square, but now because of d4, we now have access to these two squares. So I'm thinking knight here makes a lot of sense. Because now our knight can go to one of these two squares and we could look at putting the knight on d6. It'd be a powerful square for the knight. Now it's true, if they take on c3, we take back, we would have an isolated pawn, but this would be an instance where that's not such a big deal because we gain something from this exchange. We gain open b file, and with the pawn on c3, takes away those two squares from black's pieces. So yes, the isolated pawn would be bad, especially in an endgame, because it could be attacked and not defendable by other pawns. So generally those are weak pawns when our pawns need to be defended by our own pieces. But this is the middle game, and there's no immediate threat against that pawn. I suppose if we go takes, knight d5 would be an immediate threat, but we could just then play knight e4, and the knight on e4 is covering. I think we'd be fine there. Yeah, I'm a little surprised that they took there. I think that's beneficial to us. But I guess we'll see. It's up to us to prove it. So if they go knight f5 with this idea of knight g3, even knight e4 protects against that, and it also attacks the dark squared bishop, and I don't think black wants to give up that dark squared bishop. You can just imagine if this bishop wasn't on the board, I still have my dark squared bishop, and so for example this diagonal would be ideal for my dark squared bishop. So you always got to consider whether trades are helping you or helping your opponent more. If they are giving your opponent an advantage, don't make the trade. It's as simple as that. Okay, so let's go knight e4. And we've got a nice centralized knight, protects on f2, attacks c5, is eyeing the d6 square, and who knows, could be eyeing those kingside squares as well in the future. Yeah, d6 may be a problem square for black now, because it's true, I could, for example, trade off the bishop, but I imagine he's going to move back to e7, but then I can exchange the bishops this way. And yeah, it's true, my rook is a little silly over there, but I would then have access to d6 uncontested. And that would be a very powerful piece. It's just a matter of, do I want to do that right away? I do see an issue. If we were to go this route, we could have here. Well, maybe not even that. Maybe just knight f4 right away. I don't know if I want to give up my light squared bishop. It's a nice piece. So this feels like one of those critical moments, which you tend to get one or two of those every game. Or key decision needs to be made. I could play g3, which snuffs out any knight f4 stuff. I mean, I could tempo the queen. Problem with that is black plays queen c7, hitting the e5 pawn twice. And I'm not sure how I would go about protecting that. Well, I could play knight d6. The idea being if takes, 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 takes b7. Then they've got knight takes c3. Yeah, that's the only problem. What if I were to do bishop to d2 then? Bishop d2 does connect the rooks. So bishop d2, let's say, I don't know, let's just make a move. Let's say h6. Rook b1, queen here. Here, takes, 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 rook takes. And the knight can't take on c3 this time because my bishop is covering it. It's not really where I want to put that bishop, though. That bishop wants to go to a3. The thing is, queen c7 is a threat. So how would I deal with queen c7? Because just imagine queen c7 now. I have to defend this. It's only defended once. And I could move my knight, say to here or here, which allows the queen to defend. Then it does give that up. Bishop g5 is interesting. Basically just want to say I want to take that and then plop my knight into d6. So can I get away with bishop g5? I mean, if they take, I was thinking of taking with the h pawn. Yeah, but it's not really helping me, is it? Because after knight f4, they're going to grab my light squared bishop. And with this bishop off the board, it no longer supports f4. Hey, Jack, the time control is 30 minutes with 30-second increment. Hey, Zor. Serious chess, yes. Hmm. Okay. That's interesting. Looking at rook b1. Okay, I've got an idea. Let's go rook b1. Now I was looking at actually bishop to b2, but I just realized it does allow this move, but maybe that's okay. There's lots of possibilities here. Well, let's look at this one here. I mean, that's material equality. And it does give me the two bishops. But then he gets this pawn at the end. So what I was thinking, let's see, can I get away with this move? Takes, takes, takes. I was wondering if I could play c4. And let's say the knight goes back. I could go bishop to c3. Maybe I can get some compensation there. Okay. I suppose if I'm going to sack that pawn, I don't need to play bishop to d2, because this knight is covering that square. Another idea that I thought of was bishop to g5. The idea is that if he takes, I can play this move, and then if queen takes, I've got knight d6. We've got a fork. Thing is, he's not obligated to take on g5. So what if they take here? I take, they take. Rook takes there. I could get this pawn, but that's all right, I think. Trying to set up some sacks on d7. I mean, the other thing I could do is if he takes here, I could just plop the knight in as a check. That's probably the easiest. So if we go here, take, take. What if I don't draw the queen out? I go bishop here, bishop takes. Let's see, knight takes, queen takes. I'm not sure about that. Bishop here. Here. Here, here. F4. This might be one of those things where I just gotta roll with it. I've been spending a lot of time here. Okay, I'm gonna give it a try. Of course, you could play f6, which I didn't give a lot of attention to. I think we just take, even if he takes with the pawn, bishop to h6. At least keeps the king away from the king side. Not that I really want to keep the king away from the king side, but that's actually interesting. f6 could go takes, takes, and I'm wondering about c4. Knight f4 there. Yeah, that may not be good for me, but maybe I could throw c4 in right away. Then we have the black king opened up quite a bit. I think that looks promising. The other thing that I'm wondering about is, let's say here, here, here. I did look at f4. What if I dive in here? Maybe just bishop c6 there. I'm not too enamored with that. Oh, bishop c6. I think I can play bishop to b7. Okay. Well, we're going to find out. As long as the king is in the center, remains in the center, it doesn't matter that I'll be down a pawn. Once the king castles, that's when I have to be concerned, because I may not have enough compensation. f4 is incredibly weakening. So I might just go with my original idea. Rook takes. I wonder if he's going to consider f5 there. Could get a little spicy. Okay. So this is what I analyzed. So I'll give it a whirl. Now, knight takes. I was wondering if I might be able to play queen b2, pinning the knight to the queen. That looks interesting, actually. Okay, well, it doesn't matter. I don't need to worry about it. So I suspect he's going for knight f4 at the end. So we'll take knight f4. Okay. Not obligated to take back right away. So bishop to b5 is a possibility. Hello, Rage at Dusk. Welcome to the stream. So what about knight here? Go check here. Take, take, take. Bishop here. I'd be down 2 pawns, but his development is not the greatest. Oh, I'd be up a piece there, wouldn't I? Yeah. What am I smoking? I win a piece this way. Okay. So what if he takes here? I think that's probably not recommended. So how is he going to defend? Okay. Let's see what he's going to do. Oh, you got your exam, Zor? Good luck with that. What are you wanting to study in college? Do you know the subject area? Neuroscience, very nice. Why do you use light background? Black would be less tiring for eyes. No, that's a fair point actually. I never considered it that way. I tell you what, next game we'll try the black background. So here's an example of not automatically recapturing, right? So I could have just recaptured, kind of be on autopilot. But even recaptures, you want to consider other ideas. Okay, so that's a good move by my opponent. He says, you know what? I'm not going to calculate all this mumbo jumbo. I'm going to get my king into safety. Very good practical decision by my opponent. So now I could take here. And then after here, rook takes. It's kind of an awkward pin, and I'm threatening c4. But I suspect he would try to trade the rooks off before I was able to do that. Could also consider taking here. Don't think that's... Yeah, I think I'll just take on g5. I think that's... Ooh, is my rook trapped after bishop c8? Ooh, that's pretty nasty. My rook would not have a safe square. Well, I'm not really in favor of that now. I may be forced to take that bishop. Okay. So if I do this, it looks like the rook is trapped. What if I take this way? You could take, take. Bishop f3. Probably just rook d8, holding on to the bishop. Bummer. Yeah, my king's rook is not participating. might just have to bite the bullet. So do I take with the bishop or do I take with the rook? Let's take with a bishop. There may have been a resource there that I'm just not seeing. So I'll be down a pawn, but we do have active pieces. That's not the end of the world. A reason why I took on d7 with the bishop and not the rook, I was concerned about maybe knight b6 or knight f6. Some forking ideas. Okay, so I think we should play here to give ourselves a square. Don't think we're going to have enough time to generate any threats here, but I'm in particular wanting to get rid of the knight f4 options. I do have to be careful. f5 is a threat because my knight, if it moves, I lose my queen. So I might want to just get my queen out of that line of fire. Yeah, I'm too bloody slow. Sure, there's some resources here. I'm just not seeing them. f4 seems a little too wild. Okay, let's go rook here. Protect the queen. Get the rook involved. Oh, I just realized that's just giving up another pawn unnecessarily. Now you could just take. So I'll be down 2 pawns. I was too focused on f5, but of course you could just take here. Maybe it didn't matter. I think, yeah, I should have thrown in c4 first. Oh well. I do have enough active pieces that I think should be able to get one of the pawns back, I suspect. So I think on knight takes here, I'll look at queen c4. Knight takes, rook takes. He does have this check though. But yeah, we'll see if I've got enough counterplay there. If I go queen c4, what if he simply goes knight d5? That's also possible too. Yeah, this game's not going so well. I think I'm going to have to take that, unfortunately. Could take on e6, but I don't think it's quite enough. Although then I have rook e4 at the end. It's actually quite interesting. There might be some tactics in there. Well, it's worth a gamble, I think. Just wish that I wasn't so low on time. Yeah, I don't think I have enough here. See, I'm hoping to play rook e4 and somehow swing the rook over here. Maybe rook e5 then. The other thing I could do is maybe king up and rook h1. Trying to get some sacrifices on there, but I suspect it's defensible. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. It's just a bluff, but being down 2 pawns, it's pretty tough to come back from. Yeah, we'll take a look after the game. See where things went wrong. So I was going to try rook e4. Try to put some pressure. Some sacrificial chances, maybe. Probably just queen f6, threatening to trade the queens off, and also f2. So I think I'd have to come back here to defend. Reason why I rejected rook e5 was I figured he just goes bishop to f6, hitting the rook. But in hindsight, maybe that should have still been preferable. Okay, so I'm going to throw in a check. And what's the follow-up? See, I mean, queen f6 and then queen a2. The issue is the bishop is really low of squares. So the queen would get in the bishop's way. I think the bishop wants to go to f6. Because by doing that, it connects the black rooks. So I think that's what black should do. Okay, so we're happy to see that. Oh, we're not, because he's got this. Yeah, we missed that, and then he picks off the rook. Okay, well, let's get some coffee, and we'll be right back. So, let me see, do I have a be right back notice? I used to at one point. Hey, look at that. And let's change the color here. Okay, be right back, folks. All right, we are back. So let's see what went wrong there. That's felt like we were doing pretty good at one point. So let's turn on what's going on here? Why isn't it allowing me? They've changed the UI a little bit. Okay. Let's not show any lines. We just want to see the evaluation. So, yeah, I thought this was, we're fine up to here. Like this is all natural stuff. And yeah, the evaluation changes in white's favor here. So it went from, pretty much equals. Minus 0.2 is really not much. So I'd say that's around equals. And this changes to basically 2 pawns for white. So f6, probably more in spirit with the position. Yeah, could get pretty messy actually. Probably bishop there. Anyway, let's see how I didn't capitalize on my positional advantage. So plus 2.5, this is a massive advantage for white. So a bit of a pity that. Let's not show any of the annotations. Oh, what's going on here? I kind of wish it didn't show us the annotations. Guess you can't. Okay, so I played rook b1 and the evaluation went down just a hair. The other continuation I was looking at is bishop to d2. Looks like the evaluation is not too crazy about that. I did at one point consider rook d1. It looks like that's what the engine wanted to play. Makes sense, because my king's rook really didn't get into the game. And at the end it did, but it was too little too late. So for some reason I was overly concerned about losing this pawn. See, if I move my knight in order to allow the queen to support that pawn, let's say I go here. Well, the knight is also hanging onto this pawn, so that would give up the c3 pawn. But it looks like maybe I was a little too concerned about that. Maybe c4. Maybe I overvalued my light squared bishop. I mean, c4 is a committal move because it gives up the b4 square. But I did consider this type of thing, and yeah, it looks like this was the way to go. What I was looking at during the game was at some point getting c5 in and then having these two guys. Yeah, bishop to f4. Bishop f4, or even maybe bishop b2 is better. Yeah, because you hold on to the d4 square and e5. And so who cares if we lose this guy? we'll get a tempo. Okay, you're going to attack the C pawn. Okay, let's say the castle. And yeah, this is just a massive advantage for white. So very disappointing that I messed this up. So I'm wondering if we can somehow, I had looked at these ideas of getting the pawns here so that I could hop my knight in, but downside here is that the knight will block. Is there a knockout that I'm just missing? Looks like some knight f6 stuff could be in the air. Oh, maybe just simply knight in here. I mean, it looks impressive. The engine is just saying bishop takes a4, though. The other way to do it would be like knight f6. Yeah, it looks like that's what the engine wants to do. Yeah, this makes sense. Queen g4 is unstoppable. So disappointing. That's one of my flaws in my analysis is I do tend to be a little, I don't know if short-sighted is the right word, but too dismissive of things. So for example, I was so obsessed with holding on to that light squared bishop. Okay. Rook b1 I don't think is a bad move. I mean, the valuation goes down just a tad. Okay. We're still okay here. We're almost +2. So obviously, yeah, this is still okay. So it looks like my bishop b5 was just a little cute. It was too cute. I probably should just simply take here. And again, I had fallen in love with this light squared bishop, but looks like I was overvaluing its importance. What do we do in reply to that? Maybe queen e3? Thing is, the king can't castle because the bishop is loose. And if the bishop were to go to c6, don't see any tactics yet. I suppose at this time we could play bishop to b5. Yeah, this would have been the way to go. So just, I wouldn't say a miscalculation, a misassessment, which, I mean, is part of calculation, but I just overvalued this move. So let's just go to the end here, see if there was any hope at all. Yeah, that one seemed to give it away, but around here it's saying equals. So yeah, I think I have to play c4 here. I was, again, here's my tunnel vision. I was too enamored with this f5 threat because the knight can't move anywhere. These two squares are occupied by my pawns, and therefore my queen is undefended. So I'd lose the knight. So I got to go here, I believe. And let's say knight to b4. Yeah. And now the engine is saying it's plus 0.2. So given that I'm down a pawn on the board and it's saying plus 0.4 now, that just goes to show the value of active pieces. If you compare my pieces with black's, particularly the rooks and the dark squared bishop, mine are much better. So I do need to be concerned about f5 now, but I think at this point I could play rook e1, even though the engine doesn't care for that. Why? Must want to put, yeah, maybe it wants to put the rook on a better square. So maybe queen e3 just to hold on to the queen with the rook d1 as an idea. The only thing I didn't like about that was it allows this move. But I guess the knight can't stay on d4. Yeah. Yeah, the knight is evicted. Okay, well done to my opponent for taking advantage of my mistake. I have a challenge here. Who's challenging me? Casual. No, I don't play casuals. It's online chess, folks. Make it rated. It's not like your rating matters. It's not like you're going to be invited to some of the top GM tournaments based on your rating. All right, let's see if we can find a 10-5. And we do right away. Very good. So we have the white pieces, and for the second game in a row. And of course, we cannot refuse the invitation into the King's Gambit. Now, this is a known line. So it looks like I'm just giving up a rook because there's a check. Well, and my opponent is going to fall for it. This is not good for black because the queen is trapped in the corner. And it's going to take black quite a few moves to get that queen free. So I believe the first move is simply queen h5, threatening the f7 square. Okay, and now I think I can play d4 because that threatens the knight on h6. Yeah, okay. So I take the knight on h6. They're going to take my knight on e5. But then the rook in the corner is going to be loose. So we're going to win the rook in the corner. And we're going to win the bishop on f8. So yeah, this is just an opening trap that's nice to know. I don't have a lot of opening traps in my repertoire. This is one of them. Yeah, so now not only does black lag behind in development, black is going to be down here. Oh, I overlooked that idea though. Maybe I spoke a little too soon. So now the threat is simply to castle queenside. So we somehow prevent black from castling queenside. Knight d7, huh? I mean, it'd be nice to be able to try knight b5, knight d5 ideas, but gotta be concerned about queen takes e4. If I go d5, bishop here, I mean, I do lose the bishop there, but I probably get it back. But it might be simple. Might be best to castle here now. Or we could try bishop to g5, trying to keep the king in the center. So if I go there, back to castle. And queen f3 is rather annoying because it prevents us from castling. If we take here, I mean, he doesn't even have to take right away. Could castle, because then they're taking on next move. So I almost feel like this is the first move, irrespective. We want to keep the king in the center. Okay, so let's go with that. Okay, now I think that's just being greedy by black. Don't think grabbing material should be the focus. So now castles makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because he's threatening queen check, which would pick off the bishop. So let's do castles. Okay. Ah, very clever. If I take, he's going to play check first, because then he'd defend that twice. So very clever. So I might be losing some momentum here. Can I somehow open up another line? Yeah, if I don't think I can allow him in a castle. We don't want to allow that. Not sure how to prevent it though. Doesn't look like I can. And then my queen is in trouble. So I went wrong somewhere. This is not good. Might have to give up my dark squared bishop there. Oh boy. Can I somehow, I must be missing a move here. I'm not seeing, because this is supposed to be a downright just winning line for white. But I'm obviously not seeing it. Must have erred somewhere. Yeah, now I'm in trouble on the clock. Well, the only thing I can think about is this. I mean, I don't think it's great, but we're just going to have to play blitz now. Now we're threatening rook takes, or even queen takes f8. Okay. Well, looks like my king might go on a little king walk. I have to risk it, I guess. So we're going to win the bishop on f8. I am expecting king takes, or bishop takes d7. That's also possible. Bishop takes d7, yeah. And then it's just a matter of, can I survive the checks that black will have? I think I can. I suspect black has a draw, at least, if he wants it. Probably just takes. Queen d4 should be enough for perpetual. Yeah, that might be what he's going for. Oh, no. He's got even more. Ah, queen e3. Well, it looks like he had the win then. Ah, that's a pity. Looks like that was losing anyway. Yep, nicely done. All right, that's a shame, because that's supposed to be a winning line for white. So, as you can see, the engine is giving this as a big blunder. So you're supposed to take here, and then play d5 and go into this endgame. It's kind of an equal endgame. So let's see where I mucked things up. So still in white's favor. But my advantage has gone away a little bit. And now I'm just lost. So bishop, yeah, this is a critical position. So bishop g5 is not the way. I looked at this, but I mean, I suppose black could even maybe ignore. No, bishop here. Actually, bishop here. was what I was concerned with, even though the engine's not. So what in the heck did I miss? What else? I was thinking about this. Okay. Does seem to have engine approval, but why can't black just ignore that and castle? Why is this supposed to be so great? Maybe that's the thing. I was looking for a knockout when all I should be doing is to be content with a 2-pawn advantage. That's what it looks like here, yeah. So interesting, bishop takes. Yeah, for some reason I was so insistent on not allowing them to castle. I didn't even consider the fact that I'm now ahead material, so it's not such a big deal to allow them to castle. Okay, but even then, let's see if there were some alternatives. So in this position, I grabbed the knight. Was there something else I could have tried? Yeah, engine seems to think I've got a stronger move here because the evaluation goes down when I take that. I'd love to be able to play knight d5 or knight b5. The problem is the knight holds on to the e-pawn, so don't want to allow that. Oh, maybe the thing is, d6 is not really a big threat because when they take, I'm threatening the rook in the corner. Maybe bishop f4 is better. What about bishop f4? No, the engine doesn't like that. I guess this is just probably worse than what happened in the game. Because now they have their knight. So I don't have bishop takes h6 anymore. So it's not bishop f4. We want to develop actively. Be nice to be able to castle quickly. What about something simple like bishop to d2? No, engine does not approve of that one. I suspect bishop e3 is in the same vein. The only other one that I didn't consider is bishop g5. So it's not any of those bishop moves. Oh, I wonder. Are there any like king f2 things available? King f2. King f2 may be. I thought that might be possible because we have. Maybe it's just rook g8 there. Yeah, that stops bishop g2. Otherwise, the queen would be trapped. All right. Well, we've considered. Don't know what other move that we could consider that hasn't been. So let's ask our friend. Show us the move, my friend. Okay, so it is bishop takes h6. It just changes the evaluation for some reason. Okay. All right, so here, so this is the game here. Takes. I can't imagine you don't take there. I mean, maybe. Because we are down a rook. So I can't imagine. I mean, yeah, maybe this is okay. Because we've got bishop check. With the idea of taking the queen. The only thing is it allows this to happen with check. Maybe this would have been the better way to go. Because that was his thing, like I couldn't get these two pieces involved quickly enough. Okay, so let's take a peek. We want to play the next game, so let's take a peek at what the engine wants to do. So it wants to take on f8. So on e5 is slightly inaccurate. It wants to take here. Okay. And so after rook takes, then we castle, which is kind of in the vein of what I was just looking at. Knight c6, d5. Yeah, this is good for white. So that's a pity. This is the game, and I just made one inaccuracy. Okay, so we've started with 2 losses. We've had promising positions in both. In fact, we've had winning positions in both. Let's see if we can get a 15-10 game. And let's change our luck here. Can't find a 15-10. Maybe we'll go with another 10-5. Oh, we're able to find a 15-10. First black game of the day. And we start with d4. Okay. All right. Let's go with knight f6. Been a while since I've played the Queen's Gambit. And on Title Tuesdays, I don't play it. I play the modern g6 and reply to d4. But I should give the Queen's Gambit another look. Thinking about buying Danny King's Power Play DVD on the King's Gambit, or the Queen's Gambit, because I bought his DVD on the King's Gambit, which I really like. And he has a repertoire for black. The Queen's Gambit declined. Okay, so generally when bishop d3 happens, I want to take on c4. And basically argue that white has taken 2 moves to put that bishop on c4. Now the question is, do I go c5 right away, or do I go a6? The idea to play b5 and harass that bishop. I like a6 because let's see if we can entice them to play a4. Because if they play a4, then the b4 square is available to us. Okay, so they just castle. Now we can play b5, bishop to b7, and we've got the bishop on that really nice diagonal. But first things first, I put the bishop on b7 first. Then they might have e4, e5. I'd rather attack the center before they've had a chance to play e4, because then I'll take on d4. Okay. I could take back right away. I think I should. I don't see any reason why not to. Otherwise, it gives white some opportunities to hold on to that pawn with some like b4 ideas maybe. So we're not going to play anything fancy here. We'll just keep solid. Which is one nice thing about the Queen's Gambit. It is a very solid defense for black. Okay, queen there makes a lot of sense. Because my bishop is undefended, so knight e4 or knight takes b5. Hey, nerdy Asian guy, long time no see. Welcome. Well, I mean, the first 2 games I played today were both rapid games, and I believe my opponents were both. No, the first game was a classical. That's right, and it was 2200, and then my last game, I believe, was 22 or 2300 as well. But you are right. Rapid and Classical are not the most popular of the online formats. Okay, so I think I want to play knight b to d7 to hold on to the bishop. And the other reason why I like that move is after knight to e4, I'm thinking I could play just the bishop back, because after takes, you get to take back with the knight, and my knight holds on to h7 pawn. Whereas if I were to, let's say, go here, or even queen e7 after knight e4, the double attack on the bishop and the pressure here, I think my h7 pawn is going to be in trouble with that pressure. I'm just wondering, queen e7, knight here. What about knight there in this case? It does give up the two bishops, but I mean, my knights are so active. I actually like that. I think that is okay. So let's do that. This is multi-purpose. Protects the bishop and also gets out of the d file, because the rook is going to go, one of the rooks are going to go on d1. Hello, Paul, e4. How are you? Nerdy Asian guy. I wonder if perhaps I could play you after this. Absolutely. We could absolutely play a game. What time control would you be interested in? Now, one of the downsides, you'll notice with me playing b5, the bishop really wasn't all that greatly placed on c4, whereas when I play b5, it pushes his bishop on a nice diagonal. That's where that bishop wants to be. The other thing that b5 does is it opens up this diagonal. And I haven't yet developed my bishop here, so what I wanted to express was on knight takes. Well, this is in fact what white played. I don't have time to take this, because after takes, the bishop is hitting the rook in the corner, and we've got pressure on h7. So I'd have to save my rook, and then they'd be able to take on h7. So that's why I'm not taking the knight, and rather I am playing knight there, so that if the knight takes here, I take back with the knight, and we still have enough defensive resources on that pawn. Hello, Durian Defense. Good to see you. What's the difference between slow rapid and rapid rapid? I don't know. Did I use those terms? Monty's Polish. Welcome. Thank you for the follow. So rapid on Lichess is, I think it's like maybe less than 20 minutes. Whereas classical or slow chess is above 20 minutes, or it's, like 15 minutes and I don't know, 30-second increment. So general rule of thumb, I think rapid on Lichess is like 20 minutes or less. How am I? I'm doing quite well, thank you. It's a rainy day here in Atlantic Canada. So what better place or time to play some chess and hang out with you folks. I appreciate you guys tuning in. It's always fun when you guys tune in. Be sure to check my YouTube and Discord channels. You can issue the command !YouTube or !Discord. Got some content on our YouTube channel. I'm a nice man. Well, thank you. I try to be. Nice people do exist in the world. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to give up the 2 bishops, but the 2 bishops does not signify an advantage. It all depends on the position. So in this position, yeah, white would get the 2 bishops. I'll probably take with the queen, offering the exchange of queens. Actually, on that note, maybe I won't. I think I'll take with the knight now that I think of it, because if I allow the exchange of queens, then the bishop has access to these 2 squares. So the queen is kind of taking away some squares from that bishop. So after here, I suspect in order to hang on to the bishop, the 2 bishops, white needs to spend a move. And then I'm playing bishop to b7, and my pieces are very, very active. And if you compare white's bishops, not so much. So I would say the fact that white has the 2 bishops in that position is really of little consequence, because white is behind in development there. So it may not be prudent for white to, and that's a very good move. I was just going to say, it's probably best for white to get on with the development. So that is a very, very mature move by our opponent. Very nice move. Okay, so that's got a bit of poison in it, actually, because I think there could be a pin with bishop to b4 here. So I'm thinking knight takes, and let's say if I were to take back, bishop b4 is quite uncomfortable. That's an uncomfortable pin. And if I were to take with the queen, we've got takes. That would be okay, because yes, they could play bishop to b4 and it's a pin, but I think I can take on d3 because that's undefended. And yes, they get the rook, but I get 2 pieces there. So I think that's how I would have to do it. So let's continue our development. Montes, well, it's a game for everybody. And I'm just looking at my dog. She just decided to sleep on her side finally. Chess is for everybody, and it doesn't matter if you are not a grandmaster or not. The important thing is that you enjoy the game. Who cares if maybe you're not the best or the best player in your community? If you enjoy the game and you enjoy learning more, that really should be the key. I mean, you look at me, for example, I've been an NM strength now for, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years. I really haven't gotten to the next level. And the next level, I think, would be an FM. And yeah, that's disappointing that I haven't climbed the rating ladder, per se. But I really haven't put in a lot of work. So I got to be honest with myself. But that doesn't really matter. I mean, I play chess for fun. And I want to learn. Of course I want to improve. But if I stay at my current range, I'm okay with that. because I'm improving every day with chess, and even if it doesn't reflect in the ratings, that's okay. What does the RJ in my name mean? Well, it's Bobby Fischer. His full name is Robert James Fischer. Bobby, of course, is short for Robert, and James is his middle name. I wanted the username NotFischer on its own because that's what I have on chess.com. Unfortunately, somebody whose account expired many, many moons ago had already taken that name. And unfortunately, Lichess, they've been asked to provide this feature by quite a few people, but it's not so easy for them to implement the features. So, it'd be nice to say, hey, why can't you just reassign that username to somebody who is currently active? Well, it's not so simple for them. So I said, okay, I'll go NotFischer RJ. Paul is the best player in your house. Well, I'm the best player in my chair, but I can't admit to being the initial sayer of that joke. That's a Ben Feingold joke. Okay, so I could play h6. h6, I could play g6. The thing about g6 is it does loosen the knight here, which I don't really like, so I'm more in favor of playing that one. So let's see, rook here, takes, 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 takes check here. And what do they do with the queen? Because I'm threatening to play bishop takes, and I'll be hitting the queen. So I'm curious if I can go that route. Because, yes, I give up this pawn, but with the queen on f6, I would be threatening g6, trapping that bishop. And normally he'd be able to grab two pawns with queen takes g6. But with my queen on f6, of course, I could simply take his queen. So that might be possible. And he's going to lose a lot of tempi. Oh, of course, and I've got pressure on this too. Yeah, with the queen on f6, yeah, I'm probably going to either regain the pawn or crack open his king side. So let's give that a try. Oh, well, thank you for dropping by, Monty. I hope to see you again. And sorry I missed your earlier question. The only other game that I really play, well, I mean, I'm not even sure you'd call it a game, but I like to do crossword puzzles. Okay, I'm going to take with the queen. All right, you have a nice day too, Monty. It's good to chatting with you. Paul says, I was peeved that Lichess wouldn't let me change my username. Yeah, I hear you. But I guess username is tied to so many things in the source code that it wouldn't be such a trivial change. It should be, I would think. I work as a software developer. Well, I used to. I'm a database analyst now. And I have a hard time believing that a well-architected system couldn't accommodate that change. But of course, I'm saying that ignorantly because I have not seen the Lichess architecture. So it's possible that just the way that they designed it initially doesn't accommodate that feature all that easily. And I mean, that happens. That does happen. So I think I can just go queen here. And I've got this nice nasty pin that b4 should pick off that bishop. So in order to not lose that bishop, I'm thinking maybe the queen will go back. Maybe queen d1. Yeah, to provide support to this knight, because I'm threatening to win a pawn here, amongst other things. Paul says, my previous username was Paul in NJ, and I'm not in NJ anymore. I admit that my choice of username was bad. Well, I mean, maybe you're no longer in NJ now, but if that's where you grew up, you could always just use that as the reason. But then I guess you could argue your username probably should be Paul from NJ. Anyway, splitting hairs. Okay, that's also another move other than queen d1. In fact, his move is better because the other rook wants to play. So that is nicely done by my opponent. I could shatter the king side, but I imagine after taking that's not going to be such a big deal, especially if the queens come off the board. Now, knight g4 is a cheapo. It does threaten takes followed by here. But after knight g4, I think simply just h3. And don't see any immediate tricks. I'm looking at ideas like taking here, followed by knight here, but I don't think anything's working because the queen is defended there on e2. So I might just have to play positionally because I don't think I have. G5 looks fun, the idea of G4, but I'm thinking that should be easily refuted with a move like knight e5. So a move like knight e4 is interesting. Kind of encourages white to get rid of that light squared bishop. Kind of like that idea. Let's give that a try. Nerdy Asian Guy says, my username is Shrek with lots of Ks, which will last forever. Yeah, I can't imagine that one's going to be taken. It's a good username. Hey, it's almost lunchtime here, 10 minutes to noon, so I will have to feed the dog right after this game. She very much likes her schedule. She will stare at my wife and I if we haven't fed her at the right time. Almost as if she's saying, it's time for food, it's time for food. Nerdy Asian Guy says, Shrek with 1 to 7 Ks have all been taken. Can't wait for the next one to join the club. Is that right? Guess you fellas all had the same idea. So here's a good position to say, okay, white has the 2 bishops in an open game. Does he or she have the advantage? And I would argue that no. I'm not saying that I have the advantage, but I don't think white is having an advantage here, especially because of the 2 bishops, because you look at the activity of my light squared bishop and my knight on e4, my queen on h5, and my other knight is ready to join either on c5 or f6. And so this would be a situation where I would say no. The 2 bishops really don't offer white anything special. However, that being said, white is smart to try to keep the 2 bishops in order to generate something. So that is a good attempt. I'm just wondering if I could play e5 here. If the bishop wants to, the bishop could go there, I suppose. That would be kind of a silly spot. Ah, I see. Maybe the idea is they're going to take here because my queen has to take. That's the big idea. Okay. Maybe knight c5. Let's try knight c5. Try to get that light squared bishop. How often do I study chess, either by reading chess books or studying Masters games? Good question. I mean, that is a useful practice to undertake. How often do I do it? That's tough to say. I mean, I work from home, and you know, sometimes if there's a slow day or between breaks, I'll check the latest action in some of the Grandmaster tournaments. So I'll go over some of their games. In terms of reading a chess book, I go in phases. So I had been going through the Tal Botvinnik book about their World Championship, going through each game. But yeah, I'm not really answering your question in a finite way, am I? Yeah, it's tough to say. I don't really. Okay, I think I want to try. I want to go Queen E7 and see, or Queen H4, see if I can tempt them to play G3. Okay, let's go with this one. It's a little weird, but yeah, we got Moobot with the bad dad jokes. You can never have enough bad dad jokes, in my opinion. Okay, well, we've gained something there. Now we have to take it with the knight. All right, so now white no longer has the two bishops. Probably have to play knight f6 here. Look at this square. I wanted to play knight d6, but bishop c5 is kind of an annoying move. Now don't play e4, because that's a free rook. Yeah, so this is probably equal. All right, let's get our other rook involved. Use all our pieces. Now I thought I could play rook d8, but now I'm seeing that Rook c7 hits f7 and the bishop at the same time. So unfortunately, I believe I'm going to have to yeah, looks like I'm going to have to trade or go back to f8. I don't think that's any good either, so just want to cover this square. Of course, you can't play e4 because that drops the queen. So that should give me enough time to evict that knight. Queen c5 is possible. Okay, knight there. Well, worst case scenario, I can come back here or to e7. So we probably got an equal endgame here. In fact, once white gets out of this nasty pin, I don't think white has anything to worry about. In fact, this pressure along the c-file might be able to make use of that. So anyway, let's create an escape square. Okay. Probably need to plug that C file. Yeah. I probably could have kept the queens on, but in time trouble, it's generally a good rule of thumb to simplify the position. Less pieces, less things to worry about. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I should be winning a pawn here. Either a2 or... they throw that one in first, though. Right. Well, I mean, we could go into an opposite colored endgame, bishop endgame, but that's probably a dead draw, so let's try to play along a little bit anyway. Yeah, I think I'm going to have trouble protecting that pawn, aren't I? I think I'm going to have to just be content with the draw. Oh, my opponent wants more. Okay. I'm just able to save that pawn. Yes, I made a slight inaccuracy there, didn't I? Might be okay. So I thought I could play this move because I have a check on a4. Yeah, I'm probably going to lose the e5 pawn, though. It's a problem. Okay, I think bishop f6 was more accurate there. Because now I've got some pressure on e4. Well, if I want to draw, I could just take on e4 with the knight. This should still be a draw, and you could argue that white has the better minor piece. How do I check the king away? Okay. This is called the NotFischer endgame. Yeah, you could call it the NotFischer endgame. Okay, I'm not sure how I want to go after. I think b3 or that move. Do I take? But then my king is kind of in trouble there. Yeah, I may have erred. So my knight is pretty desperate. Although, this might be okay. Gonna be a race. Ah, my opponent. Looks like he's gonna win this. He's gonna zugzwang me. Nicely done. Boy, oh boy. I'm having a rough time today. This is gonna be 3 losses in a row. So, what happened there? Yeah, my knight, yeah, I shouldn't have gone for this. My king, I don't know why I was so concerned about this. That was just stupid that I took that pawn. Of course, this is a dead draw. Yeah, a very good play by my opponent. Very well deserved. I'm curious what the evaluation was. As you can see, the eval is around equals. But what about when the queens were still on the board? Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty equal here. Okay, Nerdy Asia guy, I do see your challenge, but just let me top up my coffee, and I'll be right back, folks. Okay, we are back, and it looks like we're going to play one of our viewers, Nerdy Asian Guy. So let's see if Nerdy Asian Guy is still there. Let me know that you're still there, and I will gladly accept your challenge. I'm just curious if I had any chance. The evaluation is pretty much equal the whole game. Okay, you are there. Excellent. Okay, let's play. Oh, we're playing a casual game. Okay. I normally prefer to play rated, but that's all right. Okay, the A3, that is, well, the Alapin is when you play C3 on move 2. Maybe this is like a delayed Alapin. Okay, now I was thinking I could just go knight E5 here. I could go knight B8, which it looks a little silly to undevelop, but because the center is not completely open, I might have enough time to make a move like that, but I think I'll go with my first instinct, which was to play knight E5. Unless there's a reason why I shouldn't. Let's give it a try. Yeah, let's play A6. I'm just concerned about some stuff going on B5 there. I'm vulnerable in this diagonal. Bishop B5 stuff. Ah, okay. F4, very aggressive. So if I take, they're going to take here. Then they're going to have a big pawn center. And I'll probably have to undevelop. Or will I? What happens on knight G4 there? Say bishop takes, queen B6. Some threats here, threatens there. That looks like fun, actually. Of course, they don't have to play E5 right away. They could play bishop takes. Very interesting. Um, Queen d6 or queen c7 also makes sense, just to hold on to the pawn. Might that be the best way to go? Queen a5 is also interesting with the idea of knight takes e4. Queen a5, maybe just takes. Not so sure about that. All right, let's try queen c7. Okay, so it is called the delayed Alapin. Okay, very good. Now, something tells me I get murdered if I take that. Probably maybe castles, and yeah, I win a pawn. But I got no pieces developed. I do have to be cognizant, though, after castles, bishop f4 threatens to win my queen because I don't have any squares. So maybe e6 is crucial here. Castles, takes, bishop f4. We could always go e7 or e6. But I don't think I want to open up the e file if my king is still in the center. g5 might be interesting. Just trying to take away that square. It looks like fun. Let's try it. Well, g5 is either a very interesting fighting move or it's a crock of malarkey. We're going to find out one way or the other. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Try to get that bishop involved. Okay. Yeah, I figured that was the idea. So I can't take because my rook is undefended. So how do we deal with this? Maybe we take, and then they have to take with the knight. And that gives us enough time to castle. I think that's okay. The downside is, though, f5 is weak, so it's going to be a square that could be used by white's pieces. Well, you're playing quite well, nerdy Asian guy. This is very interesting. Okay, knight g4 is crude, but even if it's crude, still needs to be dealt with. So probably just g3, and then we could argue that we've at least made white create a weakness. Knight g4, g3. I mean, the only thing is, like, the only thing that I like about knight g4 is that white can't immediately play rook f5. And my queen is kind of low of squares, so knight g4, g3, and maybe e6. Now let's try that. Let's see what's going on here. So the obvious threat is that. Okay, so I thought e6 is kind of multi-purpose. Takes away the f5 square, also chips away at the center. Maybe I want to throw this one in first, though. I'm wondering if like queen d7 is annoying. Attacks that. Pressure there. I probably could sack that pawn, actually. Shouldn't be too concerned about that. Okay. I think if white wants to go pawn hunting, I should be very receptive to that. Because white is the one that played, not a gambit line, but a line where white has the lead in development. So it's kind of counter to white's original thinking. Interesting position, though. The thing I don't like about white's position is the queenside pieces. So how does white get those queenside pieces in the game? I thought there was an opportunity in the opening for white to play bishop to e3, so we'll look at that after the game. And how long have we been online here? Oh, we've only been on for an hour? That doesn't seem right. Oh, maybe I've only been on for an hour. I thought it was later than that, though. Hour and a half. Okay, king there. All right. Nice idea. Get off of the dark square diagonal, so no longer susceptible to checks. So rook d8 comes to mind. f4 is kind of wacky. Sorry, f5. I don't think wacky is generally a good idea. All right, let's try that. Yeah, I've been streaming for 3 hours. I don't know why Moobot thinks it's only an hour and 33, because my OBS says 3 hours. What happens on bishop to d2? I probably just take here. And there's rook f5 though. It gets tactical. Yeah, that's the thing about taking here is it takes away f5. Maybe knight f6 is really all I should do. Put some pressure on these two guys. All right, so if b5, queen b4, b5, queen b4, I could offer the exchange of queens. Might be beneficial. Let's see where the queen is going. Actually, on queen b4, a5 looks interesting. Yeah, a5 looks really interesting. So a5 takes, and do I take here? There is this, but then I have queen d4, which tempos the bishop. Then I guess they have this. Okay, let's try it. I don't have to take on d5. There's another move that I'm looking at. Okay, I didn't think that white could get away with that because of this move. I thought that that allows me to crash in on b2, but we'll see. Now they could take, but then I'm grabbing this and I'm going to win the knight. So starting to feel like I'm turning the tide here. But we'll see. Chess is a very resourceful game, so okay, I could take on d2 and then take on c3, and I get two pieces. That's probably my best. Just a matter of what do I do? I think that's okay. Yeah, I thought I might try that. So it looks like the king is going to h3, huh? Okay, let's see where the king goes. Now I could play f5. Does f5 work? So f5 takes. Probably just takes here. Knight f2 is one move. Wait a minute now. Here, takes. I can take with my rook. So the idea is that I renew this threat because the king wouldn't be able to take the knight. H5 possible. Let's see, here, 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 take, take. Doesn't quite work. I think f5 is the way to go. Yeah, and I think I can just play queen d4 here, unless I've got something better. Queen d4 is all I need to play. Still a little tricky, though. Yep, that's the best practical try. Yep, as is that. Now, I thought I could just play h6 here. h6 takes. Aren't any checks. What about h5? Maybe h5 is a little more. Okay, I'm not sure. Let's go with h6. Because now I can take. I couldn't take earlier because I would have had to block with my bishop, and then queen takes would have been checkmate. Yeah, I think this should be winning for black. But still gotta be precise. I certainly can still make a mistake, and I've only got 14 seconds. So I'm going to try to trade some pieces here. Okay, let's centralize the queen. And let's push our little pawn. Well, white does have a pass pawn on the outside. Let's throw in a check. Throw in another check. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you for the game, Nerdy Asian Guy. That was a very interesting one. Let's take a look here. Yeah, I thought there was a crucial moment in the opening. Okay, so wow, the engine already says +1. So what, it doesn't like, it really doesn't like knight c6, really? Maybe I should play knight f6 here instead. Yeah, that makes more sense. Although some people play d4 against me. I don't know if I'm able to. Yeah, maybe I am. I don't know. I mean, I never take that pawn when people play it in blitz, but knight f6 is the main line. Okay. Already at this point, it says white is 1.0. That's a pretty significant opening advantage. Now, it didn't like knight takes e5 so much. I suspect it prefers... No, it doesn't like that one. Okay, not sure. Anyway, let's go to what I thought was a critical point. Ooh, engine really didn't like my g5 move. So it looks like, yeah, that was a little too optimistic. So I should have played e6 here, which I did consider, but what didn't I like about that? Maybe it was here, here, bishop here. Yeah, that's what I didn't like. And I have to come back either here or here. And the rook has got an open e-file. So it looks like the engine doesn't want me to take on d5. Ah, this is what I'd missed in my analysis. I've got bishop check first, of course. Then I'm only one move away from castling. So I overlooked that that idea. Okay, so g5. So yeah, castles. I was more concerned with bishop to e3, and in particular, the bishop coming to d4. So I was wondering if I could have been in some trouble here. This may be how it would have gone. Actually, maybe I would have played queen f4. At least entice g3 if I can. Yeah, it looks like my g5 was way too optimistic. Looked interesting, but I think I probably should come back all the way to b8. I'm thinking if I go to c7, I'm susceptible to rook c1 ideas. Yeah, this is a pretty nice edge for white, the pawn center. And you probably could have just played e5 there too. Yeah, so that was the move that I thought kept the advantage, and it looks like the engine does agree with me there. So, I mean, castling is certainly natural, and it still shows that white has an edge. Interesting. So it's at h5 here. I did somewhat consider that move, but I thought it was more important for me to get on with my development. I mean, it's a very crude idea, but it makes sense. Bishop d7. Yeah, I didn't like queen a4. I thought queen a4 was going in the wrong direction because it doesn't, I mean, it does develop the queen, but if you think about it, it helps me develop one of my pieces, and then you're taking another move where you're taking one of your developed pieces and trading them off. And it allowed me to castle. And yeah, it's now minus 1.8 for black. So that's where the tide turned on queen a4. So I don't think moving the queen was necessarily bad. I think it was just going to a4 was not best. So there's two attackers on e4. What if white plays queen c2? Okay, it looks like engine does not like that. Check. Well, I suppose you could go here. So I guess queen e5, queen d4 is not so great. Okay, so it's about equals here. So maybe I castle. And now, yeah, I think it's important to get on with your development because those two pieces really didn't get into the game. So, I mean, it says it's equals here, so you've lost your advantage, but this is, I mean, this is a more natural way of playing. But what was better than queen c2? Maybe queen d3, taking away the d4 check. Engine has something specific in mind. I mean, is there like a sacrifice? I wouldn't think you'd want to move the rook off of that file. Okay, well, I can't take right away because of this common tactic check, and the queen is lost. So maybe on that note, I wonder if queen e1 might be the move. Engine says no. Kind of the same idea, because you've always got this bishop check tactic. Oh, you're right, nerdy Asian guy. Yes, exactly. You've got this check. So bishop e3 is fine. Yes, thank you. Right. Exactly, because you've always got this check. Correct. That's right. No need to set up that discovery. You're right. Yeah, so bishop e3 would have been good here. And again, you have this idea of bishop d4 coming. So yeah, a very interesting game. Thank you. Even though I was managed to win, it was a learning experience because I now know that knight c6 is not the main move. So it just goes to show you can learn from every game, irrespective of the result. So knight c6 is slightly inaccurate. Knight f6 is the preferred move. Okay, well, I've been at this for over 3 hours, according to OBS. So I think I'm going to wrap it up. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and thank you again to Nerdy Asian Guy. And thank you to our new followers, Monty Spollock, Rage Dusk, and Todd Answer Zero. We'll see how I feel later, whether or not I want to stream again, but if I don't stream again this weekend, next planned stream is Tuesday for Title Tuesday, where you can see me battle other titled players in Blitz, and you can see me throw away lots of promising positions. But we have fun. So until then, have a good rest of your weekend, folks, and we'll talk to you later.